can answer the question. So please help me welcome Senator Jerry Moran.
I very much appreciate the introduction, Don, but especially appreciate the Salina Chamber hosting us. Glad to be back in Saline County, and delighted, I think, that you're all here. It has been a long tradition of ours to conduct what we call town hall meetings, an opportunity for, hopefully for you to hear just a little bit about what I have to say, and for me to hear a lot about what you have to say. I'm able to be here today. If you pay any attention to the news or if you're watching C-SPAN, the Senate is actually in session today, and so it's somewhat awkward for me to be in Salina while you may be wondering why your senator is not at work in the nation's capital. One, not a lot of work is being done in the nation's capital. But two, I am here today in Kansas. I left Washington, D.C., arrived this morning to attend the funeral services at Fort Riley this morning for the 5 soldiers killed in Afghanistan just a few weeks back. And I thought we might, if you'd allow me to read their names, we might all pay tribute to those 5 before we begin our town hall meeting. This morning I met with family members. I expressed on behalf of you and every Kansan, on behalf of every American, the appreciation for the service and sacrifice that their loved ones, their husbands, fathers, sons, had contributed to our country. Their names are Randy L. Billings, he was a Chief Warrant Officer; Joshua B. Silverman, a Chief Warrant Officer; Omar W. Ford, a Sergeant First Class; Peter C. Bowler, Sergeant; and Specialist Terry K.D. Gordon. And I know that when I was there this morning that it is true of Kansans that we're very grateful for the service of all our servicemen and women. Many in this room, in fact, several of the conversations I've already had come from veterans, and so we just take a moment to say thank you to those who serve our country, and particularly thank you to those who have sacrificed their lives just a few short weeks ago in Afghanistan. So thank you all very much for being here. I'm away from Washington when I knew I was going to be at the funeral service. I wanted to see about scheduling a town hall meeting. Incidentally, Don, I tried to have this at the city-county building. Not that Don, the other Don. You're very anxious to ask a question, Don. And I discovered the rules have changed because I'm no longer city or county business. I'm no longer entitled to have a town hall meeting at the city-county building. I actually remember how this came about because during the 2010 campaign there became a controversy about whether candidates could use the city-county building, and my guess is the policy changed. I'm delighted to be back here. The last time I was in this building, Dennis Lauver's son was receiving his Eagle Scout Award, and glad to be back and appreciate the relationship that I have with Salina and the Salina Chamber. Front and center in Washington, D.C. this week are issues related to unemployment benefits, and I'm happy to have a conversation about people's thoughts in regard to an additional extension of those benefits. The next week, I expect that we will see a set of appropriation bills, perhaps all 12. If that's the case, it hasn't happened since 1994 is the last time that Congress passed 12 appropriation bills, and they all worked their way through the United States Senate and the House of Representatives. We are so far from being functional. We had a budget agreement that was approved by the Congress several weeks ago. Now the Appropriations Committee, particularly the appropriation leaders, are filling in the blanks, trying to determine how to spend the money, your money, within that new budget. And I'd be glad to hear about your thoughts in that regard. What I am hopeful is that someday soon, Congress will have a normal budget process. The budget that we have worked on this time was approved in an unusual way. It came to the Senate floor and I didn't vote for it. In my view, it spends too much money, but you also could make a lot of complaints about the process. It came to the Senate floor with no ability to offer any amendments or to make any alteration. And one would think when you're spending $1 trillion or budgeting $1 trillion, you ought to have the opportunity to make some changes, including one that we found highly offensive about paying for elimination of a portion of sequestration by altering the benefits of retired servicemen and women. And we attempted several times to alter that within the budget, but no amendments were allowed. So on a overall spending, I think there's a problem with the budget. But now those numbers have been agreed to, and our job is now to determine what the priorities are within that budget, what our spending priorities should be. And then secondly, it would be great to have a Senate in which you actually get to perform your job as a United States Senator, offering amendments, debating, having a discussion. I was told that since, I think it's since last March, there's been 4 Republican amendments that have been considered on the Senate floor, which is a totally different circumstance than what the Senate was designed to do. And it really, in my view, takes, I don't say this personally about, it's not about my prerogatives, it's about my ability to do things on behalf of Kansans. And it would be great to be operating in the Senate in which we had greater opportunity to influence the outcome of decisions. Rather than me taking any additional time, I'd be glad to take this conversation in whatever direction you'd like for it to go. Don?
I've got a microphone for you, sir, so everybody can hear you.
Senator, you know that you called me once for a budget of agriculture, so I thought I'd just keep doing it. And I have a question to ask you, or did you hear or see in the last couple of weeks something on television or in, I think it was the Wall Street Journal also, there was a small article about a federal person being in a ranch or some farm in Kansas, walking around. The farmer didn't know he was there, and he asked him what he was doing, and he said he was looking at the way that things were here, and that some people may get hurt in machinery and working in a farm. And the farmer looked at him and he said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I work here, and sometimes I get hurt, sometimes things don't go well." And he said, "Well," and he was from OSHA, and he wanted to. And the talk is in the industry now a little bit that if that's going to happen, that's going to be really terrible. I bet every man and woman in this room, sometime or another, has cut themselves, got run over by a lawnmower, shut a door on a finger, something. And is that the way it's going to come? We're going to have everybody following everybody else around? I just wanted to ask that question. Tom Tunnell says to say hi also.
Don, thank you very much. I did not see if there's a Kansas story, I didn't see it, but what you may be talking about is, and I should never correct you or any other constituent, but I think it's a Nebraska farm. And what happened was that OSHA showed up, ultimately fined a Nebraska farm thousands of dollars, and the law has said since the beginning that farms are not covered under OSHA that have less than 10 employees. And so OSHA is looking for a way around the law. This is not an unusual circumstance in today's Washington, D.C. And what they're saying is that grain handling and grain storage, if you're storing grain on your farm, you no longer qualify as a farm, you're something different, and therefore OSHA can come in and pursue regulations, pursue enforcement. We are front and center on this issue. Senator Johans from Nebraska has taken the lead, but a number of us, a significant number of senators, both Republican and Democrat, have complained to OSHA for their broadening of the scope of their authority beyond what the law says by trying to alter the definition of a family farm with less than 10 employees. And we've also introduced legislation to make clear, once again, what was said in the law long before I was ever in Congress. So it is an issue. This is, in my view, a follow-up to what we saw several years ago when the Department of Labor decided that they were going to prohibit young people from working on farms, including their own families' farms. And so you see this continual encroachment upon agriculture in ways that lack common sense, and in this case, seemingly violate the law. So we're trying to rein in OSHA in regard to farms less than 10 people who work there.
Maybe we could cut their budget some.
The suggestion was we cut their budget, which is something that we certainly are interested in, willing to, attempting to do.
It'd be a good thing.
The difficulty is there are a lot of people in Washington, D.C. who don't understand agriculture, who wouldn't understand this issue. You know, I think we were successful. One of the rare times we were successful in fighting a regulation. The Department of Labor's proposed regulation about young people working on farms, they actually withdrew it. But I think the reason we were successful in getting that accomplished was lots of people from across the country, every state in the nation, weighed in on this issue, and it was right before President Obama's re-election, in which there was a concern about rural America and how it might vote, and I think they got cold political feet. Now we got a commitment from the Secretary of Labor, and the new Secretary of Labor has committed to me that they will not revive this issue again in a new administration. So we think that one's behind us. We've just now got another one with regard to OSHA. But many people, some of you have heard me tell this story, when the Democrats, this is not a partisan statement, but when the Democrats took the majority in the House of Representatives, when I was back in the House, a congresswoman from Connecticut came to me and said, Congressman Moran, I understand that you know and care about agriculture. Please come tell me what's important. Rosa Dolores from New Haven, Connecticut. She represents Yale University in the suburbs of New York City that spill over into the state of Connecticut. And she was, during that period of time when the Democrats were in the majority, the most important person when it comes to appropriations of money for agriculture. The good news was she was asking what's important. I went to her office and explained a little bit about the Farm Bill, crop insurance, agricultural research. A few minutes in the conversation, she said, no, that's not what I want to know. Tell me, what does a farmer do? And it's that circumstance that we find ourselves in so many times in which there is no understanding of what we do. The good news is that Rosa Dolores asked the question. Better news is that I invited her to Kansas. She came. We had different ideas, she and I, about how to do this. My thought was, let's visit a farm along Highway 27. You folks are so far east that you don't know where Highway 27 is, but it runs from Sharon Springs to Elkhart. And I thought this is a perfect place to take a visitor to agriculture, is someplace near Tribune. And her first question was, well, could we just meet at an airport? We ended up in Little River, and we had cheeseburgers and coconut cream pie at Cheryl's Cafe. Kendall Hodson, a local farmer, spent the afternoon with him and his neighboring farmers showing equipment and crops. It's something we all ought to do, and it's not just me. Everybody who has an interest in agriculture in rural America needs to be telling a story about who we are and what we do, because there are a lot of people in important positions who do not know. I thought I got to pick who questioned me. Oh, no, I'm teasing.
I'm Greg Stevens. I live here in town.
Hello, Greg.
And I'm in a farm partnership in western Kansas. And my question is that I have two questions related to agriculture since we're talking about it. And this idea that fewer and fewer people are understanding agriculture is, given the Farm Bill is up for discussion, and we've taken out what has been something that's really helped the Farm Bill, and most farm organizations want to see the SNAP program or the food stamp program included. Is there a possibility to get that back in? Where's the Farm Bill stand?
Okay.
And the other part is people are really interested in food nowadays. There's a story about one of our major trading partners having five spiced donkey meat, where they've discovered fox and other animals in the donkey meat they're selling through a major retailer, which brings up the question of country of origin labeling that was passed in 2008. With 95% general support, it's still at 90% support. The WTO has kind of approved, the court case here just a while back has approved that going forward. Is there a way that we can move beyond that and get cool approved, and would you support that?
I like these. I've missed the days in which we talked a lot about agriculture. In the last several years, since August of 2008 or 9,